Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of the Public Health Gems podcast. We're so excited to jump into our season two conversation with a great subject expert matter today as we talk about infertility empowerment, being empowered through our experiences as we think about reproductive health and maternal health. But before I jump in too far, let me introduce myself. I'm Christine Ivory. I'm the host of the Public Health Gems podcast. I'm also the Public Health John. For Public Health John, we're here for consulting, for coaching, as well as convening our communities around really interesting topics and topics that we can use to be an agent of change in our community. So, with that, I want to just jump into introducing our expert today. We have Dionna Nicole Murray. We're so excited to have her here. I'm giving like a studio applause. We're so excited. Dionna, she is the founder of Barren Fruit. That's where I got to connect with her. I'm sure we'll cross section and talk about that. But she's the founder of Barren Fruit, owner of UX Designer, and she's an adjunct professor at Thomas Jefferson University. So you'll have to tell us more. But what I have down here for some bio highlights from you is that you have been in the business of designing with professionals for over 20 years of graphic and visual design experience. You also have your master's in user experience and interactive design. And of course, with that comes with strong leadership, passion, and community outreach and patient advocacy. So, really love that you're here with us today. Really excited to have this conversation and to dig our heels into it. But before I get started with all of the questions that I have and the questions that we have for you, I want to ask for this spring what some of your favorite things to do. What do you love to do with your family?
What do I love to do with my family? I enjoy sometimes, especially now that the weather is warming up and the sun is out, and just from geographically where we live, most of us are vitamin D deficient. I enjoy taking a walk. I enjoy just having that quality family time. I don't take that time for granted for a number of reasons. So being able to take a walk, usually if it's a walk towards some food, that's awesome. I love food. So going out to eat uh, are some of the things that we enjoy doing together, or just essentially enjoying each other's company, because sometimes we're not going anywhere, but we might watch a movie together. Of course, my daughter has the final say in what we get to watch or what song we get to listen to, but those are the simple moments that I enjoy. And my daughter's the same way, because we could be far away and I'm trying to like schedule all of the things, all the fancy places to go. And she's like, when can we go back to the hotel? I just want to chill. So I think she also just appreciates those simple moments of life.
That's wonderful. We love those moments of chill. Can you tell us about your background? We'd love to hear about your background in design. And how does this experience that you have transfer into your role as a founder of Barren Fruit and as the owner of?
It's called Diona Nicole Design Studio, and I am now a UX designer within that organization since I have my master's. So I've been doing that. I actually started in apparel design, which is always my fun fact. So I started out as a fashion designer, designing apparel, but always wanted more, always wanted to connect more and have more purpose than just dressing the body. So with my business, it was focused on uplifting women and really helping them to know their worth, know what they looked good in, and because ultimately starting from the inside out, building them up. I then transitioned into product design and graphic design, and I began to be able to connect with the mind. And so it was about not just dressing the woman, but what is she trying to birth? What does she have vision to create? My gift was always in the creation and helping to bring that forth. And so naturally, moving into helping more organizations and nonprofits, or if you're trying to build a product or a digital experience or website or app, and it's created a whole nother word, web. And so those things are at the root of what I am passionate about. Barren Fruit which I didn't realize what's happening, because at first it just seemed like my passion was so all over the place. Like, what am I doing? Am I making clothes? Am I creating graphics for a website? Or if I'm now in women's health, like, how did this happen? But what's at the root of it all is helping women to birth something great. And so one is on the side of product, business, purpose, and the other is on the side of a physical. You would like to bring forth life through your womb, and some women struggle with that for a number of reasons. I have a special place in my heart for those that are especially struggling, that are also battling with reproductive health challenges, especially those that don't even know it, because there's a lot of people walking around that don't know it. And so that is where I've nestled myself. And now with me being in UX, there's this synergy between the two, where I'm now well versed in creating graphics and products that can help push that agenda forward to help impact women that are suffering with those things. And then you can also look at like data visualization, something that can also change policy, that I can utilize my skills in design to help impact women's healthcare.
Listen, okay, I'm excited because I should have mentioned this at the top of our conversation, that I got to hear a presentation from Diona not too long ago, and I'm blown away by just the visuals, by the images, the graphics that were in front of me, and just to see if we could talk more about infertility empowerment and what that means to you. I think previously, before meeting you and getting to learn about Barren fruit myself, a friend, I've never heard the phrase infertility empowerment. I've never heard like empowered through those types of experiences as a woman, as a birthing person, as someone in that community. And so can you tell us more about what infertility empowerment, what it looks like, what it feels, what it means to you, and how does Barren fruit support women and people going through the process of infertility, and just that whole landscape? What does that look like? And can you tell us more?
Sure. So it's interesting because infertility empowerment, just that very thought is in the title of Barren fruit. It sounds like it's clashing with one another. It sounds like the words are opposite. Like, how can you speak about infertility and speak about empowerment? How can you speak about being fruitful and speak about women being barren? And the thought is that very thing, because so many people that are dealing with reproductive health challenges or barrenness, or the ability to not conceive, or struggling with those things, feel that they aren't empowered, feel that they aren't fruitful, feel that they are depressed and not joyful, and they can't do this and they can't do that. The very thing that they've been created to do, their body is having difficulty to bring forth, they're having difficulty to do. So there's this sense of brokenness. Because I've gone down that journey myself, and I've dealt with a number of different things, from reproductive health challenges to struggling with firsthand infertility, secondhand infertility, as well as loss. I have never forgotten why I've gone through this. And so that's what gives me the passion to go forth to do this, that there are other women that have suffered the way that I have, that feel forgotten, that feel lonely, that feel like, all these conversations that we are having right now, which are very much needed in Black maternal health, that a lot of times those women that have not conceived or struggling to conceive are forgotten. They are not always brought to the table. And so my mission is always to help bring them to the table, to know, no, you do matter in this conversation. You are a mother. Whether you've lost a child, you are still a mother. And it's one of those things that a lot of people don't recognize you as a mother because they don't see your baby, but your baby matters. And so for that very reason, you are still a mother. Even if you have not conceived, I believe that you are born with a mothering heart. There are plenty of mothers and mother figures that have never brought forth a body out of their womb. And just like there are women that have brought babies through their womb that are not mothers, to their children. And so it's important that these women be uplifted, be reminded of their worth, be reminded of their power, be reminded that that they are fruitful, that there are so many ways that we still are fruitful, that this journey that they're going through, that they've been chosen for that journey, and that God is trying to birth something through them. And for me, Barren Fruit was born out of that place. I don't believe that I would be as passionate as I am now about this mission had I not experienced the heartache and suffering that I did, you know.
Yeah.
Out of the ashes, so much is born from that place of grief. And so, yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I just got to see in real time everyone who's like with us on YouTube, or if you're with us on Spotify, wherever you're tuning in at. In real time, I was in person at Dionna's event that she has every year during Infertility Empowerment Week that she has, and just hearing the stories and hearing the impact of bringing community together, I think is so special. Which actually leads us into, I'm like the queen of segues, so it leads us into another question here that I have for you. And so we know that storytelling and the impact of amplifying voices, it speaks volumes. It's so important. And it helps to also make changes in health, as you mentioned about policy change in ways that it can really just harm things. Can you share how you uplift folks through Barren Fruit? And also thinking about the voices that I got to hear and the experiences through your presentation, what does that look like around infertility or reproductive health?
Uplifting. So it's some of the ways that I try to uplift my community are, one, by listening. So many of them don't have someone to lend a ear that's actually listening. And sometimes just having that ability to speak your piece and to have someone to talk to can go a long way. Also, the ability to have community and not to kind of negate the feeling that you're alone and that you're going through this by yourself, or no one understands, or everyone around me is popping out babies. That knowing that there's a community of women that know that feeling, that have been there, that can ultimately help uplift and give you advice. For me, it's also about connecting. So my background is not in women's health. I wear a lot of hats, but I don't wear that hat. Like, that is a hat that I don't wear. However, I'm in those spaces because I advocate and help to uplift this voice. So I may not be well versed in a lot of the health technicalities of things, but I know people that are in this space. And so I listen and I connect. It's all about helping them to get to that next part of their journey, their healing journey, because we get stuck on it. We get stuck on our healing journey for a number of reasons. And some of those can be mental reasons, because first, to identify that something is wrong, something needs to be addressed. I need to go to the doctor. The doctor didn't call me back. I need to call them. So there's a lot of things that we go through mentally that we don't advocate for ourselves. And some of it is historical, as I know you know. A lot of it has to do with, racism and bias, just the healthcare system and the way it's set up. And some of this we lack research in this area. It's absurd, honestly. And so being able to help amplify the voice that is often forgotten. I always speak about it's a silent pain. And it's not silent because we're not saying it. It's silent because it's not listened to, it's not felt, and it's not often recognized as a pain. So, yeah.
Dionna, for those who are wanting to share a story and haven't done it before, maybe on this type of platform, maybe like how we're talking now, and being really just clear about your story, and thank you for the transparency behind it as well. But for women and people that do want to speak up and share their story, what are some strategies that you have for them getting started to do that?
Write it down. Write it for yourself first. I think it's one thing to go through something, it's another to speak about it. Sometimes I would say, some women I speak for the women that hasn't found their voice yet, but I want to fix that, because it doesn't mean that they lost their voice. It just means that they're not shouting it loudly right now. And sometimes on the part of our journey that we're on, we do need to be a little bit more internal and intentional with ourselves, because we're in the depths of our healing process. And so that may not be time yet for you to share it loudly. And so I'm okay with shouting right now, but there was a time that I was not. There was a time that I did not speak about it, not even with people that were really close to me, because I didn't think that they would understand. But I think a lot of people around me, and I know, Christine, you've come to some of our events. And so, my family supports, and they've been very educated on what not to do, what to do, what to say, what not to say, just by experiencing the things that I've gone through. Like before I had my daughter, my sister even, I remember her calling me and saying, if you ever have to go the route of surrogacy, I thought about this, like I'm willing to, and I hadn't even like gone there yet, but just knowing that even my sister was willing to, like, if you need my womb, I will give it to you. So just knowing and being educated, I think helps to uplift, so that we're able to uplift one another.
Absolutely. So you brought another great point. It goes into our next question, actually, about our family, our friends, our community. So Public Health Gems podcast, we're always talking about the involvement, what I call and who I call our tribe, our partners, our family, friends, community. And so what are some of the key takeaways that our tribe should know for women who are experiencing infertility, or how they can support women and folks through these different types of transitions in the reproductive health space? What can family friends do, or what should they know?
I think one, you could be more educated on it. I think as a society and culture, we could all be a little bit more educated on it, because I think it has not been important enough. And there are a lot of women suffering in pain. For those that are suffering reproductive health challenges, literal physical, chronic pain that should not be accepted on a level of 10 constantly throughout the day, multiple times a month. I don't know anybody that would like to live under those conditions. I often think if the people that were treating people that were dealing with these chronic pains, if they were able to feel it just for a day, would they realize the urgency of being in that type of pain constantly? Would they do something then? So being more educated, encouraging to their loved one to go to the doctor, encouraging to, as far as, I'll go with you, because sometimes they want to go, but they have anxiety about it, they're scared, so just offering to be a friend and to go with them. When there are events going on, like when Barren Fruit, when we have our walks, sometimes people will say, I'll get calls sometimes, like my friend, I'm calling for my friend, and I love that, because I know that person is such a good friend that they're even thinking about it, because so many people don't listen to the signs and they don't know the numbers and the statistics of those that are suffering with infertility, and those that are suffering with fibroids and endometriosis and PCOS. They're so high. So for someone to tell me they don't know anybody that has any of these things, that means you are not listening. You are not listening, or that friend hasn't shared with you. And so I think if we can create better spaces where as women, we feel that it's a safe space to share, we will share. If when we share, we are a little bit more empathetic in receiving that information and helping, instead of, well, you can just have my kids, or, like sometimes we can be very dismissive in how people feel. And it's a real grief that these women are feeling, because I've been there. And so essentially, you think about when someone grieves a loss, we see it. We see when we lose a loved one, because our friends know, let me send my condolences and prayers to you because you just told me that you lost a loved one. But we're not necessarily broadcasting if we've had a miscarriage. We're not broadcasting that information in that news. We're not broadcasting that, you know what, I've been trying, and now this is the second year consecutively each month in heart, I've lost a child, because every month I'm hoping for this life that I may never get to hold. And so you are literally in a grieving process all the time, at least once a month when you get your cycle. And so if we could be more supportive with mental health centering around that, I think that we can better support this community.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that, and the importance of just checking in on everyone, knowing the signs, having the mental health support there. Maybe myself or another person, they might not be the best person to provide that mental health counseling or the support. There's folks out there, and just perhaps even having like that toolkit of resources available if you're talking to a friend and you hear about the signs and you just wonder about those next steps. So thank you for challenging us to think in that way, and also to recognize the grief that comes with these processes as well. I have another question for you, or this is a thought into a question. So in April, and I'm so glad I was able to take part and to be there and to see, you held the 6th annual Barren Fruit Empowerment Week in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Can you share more on the importance of gathering community and establishing important connections around this topic? And also, we were able to learn about an amazing digital tool that you have created. Can you share more on this?
So Amplify. So yes, I get to have these conferences every year. This was the 6th year, as you stated. This is a time to really get out information to the community, as you talked about, in an empowering way. So not just receiving information, but using it. Like, what do we do with this information? How do we apply it to our lives? How can we advocate for ourselves? Self-advocate. Because if we're going to allow someone to advocate for us, we have to start with ourselves. Just like if we're going to ask someone to pray for us, we got to start praying for ourselves. Like, we have to act so that others can join in on this advocacy. And so Amplify is just that. It's about amplifying your voice, and not just telling people to just advocate for themselves, but to also give them a tool to help them to better navigate this advocacy journey. And so what I've done is, as we've talked about, me being a designer, as well as a women's health advocate, essentially dealing with women suffering with reproductive health challenges and infertility. This tool then encompasses the ability to utilize AI and more of a digital solution to helping women to advocate for themselves. And so essentially it's having your advocate, your digital advocate with you at all times, and the ability to be able to check in with this advocate. This advocate also checks in with you to see how you're doing. So what symptoms are you having, can help connect you with the resources that you need, provide you with tools. Like, so if you're maybe after a doctor's appointment, it might say, how did that doctor's appointment go? Like, did you ask the doctor, did you get a copy of your records? Did you make sure you follow up? Like, just things that prompting you, because not everybody, what we might think is secondhand information is not. And while we know in this space, information and knowledge is not the sole answer, because we have to act on it, but at least how can we expect a community of people to change if they don't even have the resources and information? So I think giving them the resources and information, helping them connect them with the right doctors that are going to advocate for them, and that are well-versed with these conditions that are plaguing women, especially Black women, I think is going to be essential. And so I'm really excited about this tool and what it could do to help impact this community.
Absolutely. Anytime you say amplify, I'm like cheesing. I'm like, cheese. I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited for us, for the community, for all of us, because like you mentioned, having these tools in your toolbox are so important. And while we need to advocate for ourselves, this tool empowers us to be able to do just that. So we are at the end of this podcast episode. It seems like it went so quickly, but for those that are looking to connect, to collaborate, to get involved with Barren fruit and otherwise, just to learn about what you do, where can the people find you?
So people can find me one at DionnaNicole.com. And that is DIONANICOLE. You can also go to barrenfruit.org, and that's BARREN fruit. It's a play on words intentionally. You can also go to amplify.ai. Now, Amplify has a double I on the end, .ai, to find out more about that tool.
Let's go. We're going to put it all in the show notes. Dionna, thank you. I'm like, yes, thank you. Thank you so much for being able to be a part of the Public Health Gems podcast in the community. Really just joining us for today, sharing these gems and dropping these gems on us. The information you provide always, and especially today with us in our community, it's been so invaluable. It's been amazing. And we look forward to connecting with you more. So we'll be connecting through those resources that you just shared. Everybody stay tuned. We are still in season 2 for the Public Health Gems podcast. Join us next time for a great conversation like this one. We look forward to seeing you then. Bye, everyone.